So I'll do a quick overview of what we did on those. So in Q2 2026, this were the goals we set out to do and what we did. So on the theory side, answering open theoretical question, we wanted to focus on how to output actions and achieve goals. And we talked a bit about that in the Milan Focus Week, Neil, Streff, and I, but then kind of got sidetracked with some other ideas that we explored further in the next months, especially location representations and attention, for example, but also some new ideas around object behavior models. And yeah, with theory, it's just you can't really plan where the ideas will take you. So it's for the next quarter, we're setting them a little less strictly or less targeted on one topic. And then we had assessed scope and described new theory integration into Monty. There were several ideas we had at the end of last quarter, including communicating displacements, sharing locations without voting, dealing with distortions, affordances, and attention. And so the main ones we talked about this month were attention, since this is actually something we want to integrate into Monty now, and dealing with those distortions. This is something that actually MuJoCo addressed partially with the 2D sensor module. And we'll have to see if we need or want to make further changes to do that. But the other ones weren't really priorities at the moment to integrate for our main goals, so we didn't discuss those further. And then on the research side, one of the big efforts for this quarter was that the current prototypes are integrated into Monty and tested together. So Scott and Tristan wrapped up their implementation project, integrating the saliency policy and all of the changes to the motor system. And Scott ran these final experiments, showing how it can reduce the number of steps without loss in accuracy if you quickly saccade to the most salient locations, as well as using inhibition of return. MuJoCo completed the implementation project with Jeremy to integrate the 2D sensor module, and also ran final experiments on the main branch and presented those, showing that we can learn a logo on any shaped surface and then infer it on any other shaped surface using this 2D sensor module. Rami has worked on integrating the hypothesis channel combination, as well as various other fixes to make everything work together. And then Scott had put together this compositional object dataset, sticker dataset, and that is also integrated in Monty. And finally, Rami debugged a bunch of things, of all the things working together with burst sampling, and added various other fixes to get it all working together. We didn't get to top-down connections or parent-to-child orientation. That's still on the list for next quarter. But through Rami's efforts and debugging and fixes, we got compositional modeling working well. In the scope of debugging, he also added this tbp.teleop tool to interactively move Monty and make debugging easier. And so, yeah, now we can learn compositional objects under certain assumptions. And yeah, this is the logo on the cylinder model that was learned. And yeah, in the next quarter, we'll work on reducing some of the assumptions here, like the specific policy Rami used to move the sensor, and improving that. And then on the platform side, we have the Python upgrade, which involves first integrating MuJoCo, removing habitat and Conda, and upgrading Python. And so Jeremy has been working on that. He integrated the no-op agent, the distant agent, and the surface agent this quarter, as well as added a bunch of unit tests, converting the habitat versions to MuJoCo versions. Overall, 20 PRs that had MuJoCo in the title, probably various other PRs related to fixes that were found during that. Ale had scoped out making coordinate system transforms easier to use, but that was deprioritized in April. And then Dale started working on Monty class being free of experiment artifacts, making various PRs to refactor Monty there to remove all this episode and epoch time quantization from Monty. And then Tristan also started worked more on making Monty easier to configure, which was a goal that was added in May, end of May, including some SM and LM construction delegation to Hydra, making better dependency injection, and scoping out the sensor modules transformable pipeline setup. And then lastly, on the community, we had set out to update all the future work pages and adding well-scoped beginner tasks. And except for one outstanding PR on the future work pages, those are all up to date now. Tags are up to date. Many new pages added or updated. And we also are adding a new Monty beginner tag. So it's easier to find tasks that are kind of entry-level items where you just need to get familiar with one component of Monty to get started, and then can use that as a jumping off board for more complex tasks. And then another goal is that the documentation is up to date. So over the past quarter, we made 32 PRs that had docs in the title with various improvements. For example, there are new pages now about the Saliency sensor module and the 2D sensor module, but also changes to a lot of other pages and our website as well, making all the information there up to date. And some things that were not included in the goals, but still significant efforts that were going on. So various collaborations and communications, the Penn State collaboration around extracting more complex features around texture, that was wrapped up. Further collaboration with Keddy, the project from Zachary using Monty on a robotic arm was finalized. He'll present this Wednesday at our research meeting, presented at CIMC, and some collaboration with Agent Rev on telemetry collection for Monty, and Alexei on using reinforcement learning in Monty and prototyping that. Also various other communications on discourse. All of us have been interacting on discourse. We published 28 YouTube videos and 23 shorts. We also published the Thousand Brain System paper in Neural Computation, as well as our theory paper, Thousand Brains Theory 2.0, got accepted into Neural Computation and is in the pipeline to being published. So that's something exciting to look forward to. We merged 180 PRs to tbp.monty. That's an average of 2 PRs a day. So I think that's pretty good. All of us on the team have made changes to tbp.monty. And then there were also further developments on 16 other repositories that are related to Monty's infrastructure, tooling for Monty, like the tools that Rami put together, tbp.teleop and tbp.plot updates, Lazyconfigs, and then various prototype branches to prototype some research features. Rami published the Lazyconfigs tool to make it easier to put together configurations for Monty, and wrote and published tbp.teleop, I mentioned earlier, to live control Monty or live watch Monty during an experiment. Made a larger compositional dataset for Monty evaluation, and brainstormed and read on various other topics. And lastly, Benji joined our team as a developer advocate. So very excited to have you on the team, Benji. All right, yeah, nice Q2. Now looking forward to Q3 and our priorities there. So it's structured similar as before. Firstly, answering open theoretical questions. One of the urgent things is to figure out how to represent attention in Monty, as we're actually actively starting to implement that right now, and that will hopefully be a nice quick feedback loop between implementation and theory and reading. And to reestablish clarity on object behavior modeling, since in the last quarter we had some new ideas around that would kind of make the previous plan obsolete. So want to see what we actually want to implement and test, so we know how to move forward in the next quarter. On the research side, really the big thing is improving Monty's ability to model compositional objects. And the subpoints there are to separate features and movement, communication and processing. That's the thing that Rami is working on at the moment. Adding symmetry representations and communicating child-parent relative orientations. That's what Hoji is working on. Adding attention and model-free segmentation to focus on an object until recognized. That's what Scott is working on. It's one of the current major remaining issues that Rami identified with our compositional inference. And then adding model-based policies and attention for compositionality, something Niels is starting to look into. And then finally generating version 1 of compositionality benefits figures. So ideally, these items above will address all the major remaining outstanding issues, and we can finally make those figures showing the benefits of learning compositional models. And then lastly, this will probably not be included in the figures, depending on how fast the progress is, but adding top-down connections into Monty, which is a larger part of the compositional theory. And then on the platform side, making Monty easier to use, improve, and contribute to. A remaining, still ongoing goal is to upgrade Python. This is now updated to 3.10, maybe higher if it's possible. So wrapping up the MuJoCo integration, which there's still a lot of things to do, including migrating all the benchmarks and all these things. And then habitat and Conda removal and Python upgrade. Continued work on removing experiment artifacts from the platform. And this is what Dale is working on. And then replacing Monty data logs with telemetry streams. That's what Tristan has been working on with Agent Rev, and it will become a focus in the next quarter. And on the community side, we're planning to write and publish a 2-year TBP report. So it will be 2 years since Thousand Brains project was kicked off. We're going to publish a short summary of all the things that have happened since then. So that's something to watch out for.